Okay, so time for another exhibition of some stuff that I've worked on in my Minecraft world. This is my Minecraft creative world. I called it France because my original idea was to make something that looked like France, but I ended up doing a lot of different buildings, obviously. So this is a section of the world where I decided to do a little bit of construction inspired by London. This, of course, is the Palace of Westminster, where the Houses of Parliament meet. And I have here a bridge. I've been working on this one for a little while. A lot of work in the past few weeks, thinking about the coronation coming up on today, the 6th of May. Now, for Big Ben, as it's commonly known, but actually the official name is the Elizabeth Tower. I built it to be just a little bit larger than the real one, but that way it really does stick out. And I am going to build a lot of other buildings. For now, I have just some smaller ones. Uh, Most of them are my own unique design. Ooh, that's not supposed to be there. A little bit of a scaffolding. So a lot of times when I'm building in Minecraft, I like to do things that are my own original design. Even if I do something inspired by something in real life, I still won't usually make it a perfect one-to-one replica. There are a few exceptions to that, like when I built Monticello, that I tried to make as close to a one-to-one replica as I could. Mount Vernon, the White House, those I looked at a lot of different pictures and tried to make as accurate as I could. But a lot of times, especially with much larger buildings, I decide, I'm just going to do my own thing. Here, this takes the place of the Admiralty Arch, which in real life, you go through the Admiralty Arch before going down the mall towards Buckingham Palace. I don't really like that building all that much, the one in real life. It's kind of an office building with three big arches through it. I decided to do something more like an old ancient Roman arch, something like the Arch of Titus or of Septimius Severus in Rome. And then here is the mall. And of course, I have all the Union Jacks put up on the lamp posts. Now, the texture pack that I use is ancient Roman theme. And sometimes some of the stuff looks a little funny. I don't really mind it too much. And I really like the color palette in this texture pack. And this is hardened clay. There's a terracotta. And I really like the color for this when looking at the real mall. I have just some small buildings, some little parks. I am eventually going to build St. James's Palace over there, roughly where the real one is relative to Buckingham Palace. There are also some other major houses like Clarence House and Lancaster House. This over here is just part of Buckingham Palace that I copied over. I tried to build my version of Buckingham Palace close to the real one in the sense that it looks like it's built in stages, because the real one was built in several different stages. There was the early 18th century manor house that was built by, I believe, the Duke of Buckingham. And then after it was purchased by George III, there were wings put onto the original house, and then eventually the front facade, as you know it today, was added on after that. So major eras of building, I decided to take the original nugget of a house and copy it over there in place of Lancaster House. So here we have the circle with the Victoria statue. I put down flower beds. I thought that would look nice. We have more of the park over there. Now, the front facade of my Buckingham Palace. It's actually larger than the real life one. That was so that I could add in a little bit more detail on the front facade. But the rest of the square is more or less close to reality. I tried to lay it out based on real life measurements. So these gates don't actually line up with where they should on the facade compared to the real one. I don't really mind. I haven't been there in person yet, so it doesn't bother me. It's also set back a little bit further than the real one, but that's because the facade is just so large. I didn't want it to look like it overwhelmed this front space. One thing that I've realized when trying to build urban areas in Minecraft is you can really easily underestimate how much open space is between large buildings and monuments. So I try to not underestimate. So here we go into the central courtyard. Now it's based on the real Buckingham Palace, but a lot of it really is my own design. You can see here, this original section is kind of its own self-contained manor house. And then I have these two wings, which are 3 stories emanating off. And actually, if you take a close look, you can see that these on the second floor, well, yes, on the second floor are dummy windows. You can't see anything inside. And then there aren't even windows up here. If you look over on the roof, see, this is just a facade that raises up. So the original section of the house, as I designed it, has fewer stories than these wings. And then there is the front facade, which is a completely different color of stone. Now I have just a few different things like a greenhouse over here, some random storage. I built an archway here. This is all completely my own design. I wanted to put some stables over here where I could have some horses, because I do sometimes like to play survival mode in my creative worlds. So I want to have access to horses. I put electric lights in the barn so that the hay won't catch fire. Back into the central courtyard. We're going to go through the carport. I put some nice glass here to somewhat enclose the area. And into here we have the entrance hall. Now I try to make this look like the real life entrance hall, but beyond it, well, this is a bit larger than the real one based off of pictures I've seen. I was almost imagining like a hotel lobby, something that's just a little bit more commercial than you would expect, but considering that Buckingham Palace really is the nerve center of the crown, with so many staff who work in communications and work with Parliament, and working, not that Parliament works here, but engaging with Parliament is the proper word. It's an office building. So we have green drawing room up here. And here we have this overlooking the courtyard. Let's set that time to 0, just so it doesn't get dark. I have the throne room off of here. And as you can see with this ancient Roman texture pack, a lot of these colors can be very rich, like having the little hints of gold in. We have the thrones, chandeliers, and I tried to put skylights in wherever I could just to allow for natural light to flood some of these areas, especially with how these rooms can get very large and the windows don't provide enough natural light. We have the central gallery here. This I more or less tried to make look like the real one. We have fires going in the fireplaces. The music room. I'm not crazy about this ceiling. I might rework it at some point. I also haven't put any furniture in here. I haven't put a piano in for being a music room. Some of the smaller rooms I did try to put some furniture in, things like couches, lamps. There's a little fire there in the corner. Just trying to have things look like what you would see in Buckingham Palace based on pictures. The dining room, yeah, this really veers from reality. I was just trying to think, where can I have a large enough dining room that could feasibly support state dinners? Although sometimes they will have state dinners in the ballroom, which I have over here, which also looks like, from the outside, another addition, because the real life ballroom is an addition. I have it set with tables for dinner. In real life, I believe there is a large organ over here, and I might try to build an organ at some point in the future. But then I also have a couple more thrones up here. I'm just going to hop over the table. This is the ballroom. Oop. I put a few villagers in here just so it's not too empty. So this room, no furniture in it yet. And some of the rooms, all the furniture they have are a few couches, a few planters. This room was a later addition. I actually originally had the ceiling much lower and I had rooms above this. Then I realized I didn't have enough staterooms with these high vaulted ceilings, so I took out the rooms that were above and I increased the height of the ceiling in here. See, here's a room with a lower ceiling. Some of these are just rooms for the sake of filling up space. If I do end up playing more survival mode in this world, I'll probably end up putting more things in some of these rooms, trophies, stuff like that. This is based off of the central staircase in Lancaster House, not Buckingham Palace. But oftentimes in movies and TV, Lancaster House, the inside, will be a stand-in for Buckingham Palace. If you have ever seen The Crown, you'll probably recognize a staircase that looks somewhat like this. It's supposed to be in Buckingham Palace, but it actually is in Lancaster House. And even though I learned that after I started this project, I still just couldn't imagine Buckingham Palace without a staircase like this. And I don't know what the private apartments look like. Everything was just going to be my own imagination anyway, so I decided to put this in. And the way I have it, I just have some small rooms off of it. I imagined bedrooms for the royal family. That's part of the ceiling in that other stateroom. Don't even have beds in them. The real Buckingham Palace has, I believe, 775 rooms, which is a lot. I tried to count how many rooms I had here, and it's definitely over 100. Of course, that doesn't come close to 775, but I'm not sure exactly what that 775 includes, and I can't remember exactly how I was counting these rooms, so. Now, through here, we have another smaller, I imagine some kind of a salon or a drawing room. And then in this corridor, we have some of the more intimate family rooms. The idea being for the royal family to have a private dining room that's much smaller, still very grand, very large, with a fireplace and windows overlooking the garden. Here we have a map of everything I've built in my world so far. Buckingham Palace is up here. This orange was the mall that I walked down. We have the Palace of Westminster over here. This was the bridge I started on. Over here was an area I imagined that I would develop like San Francisco. I haven't built any buildings over there like San Francisco. The only building there is Grand Central Terminal from Manhattan. But I did build the Golden Gate Bridge, about 3/4 scale. It goes across this bay. I have St. Peter's Basilica up here. Down here I have the Eiffel Tower. I built the German Bundesrat building. I built an imperial palace based off of the Schloss Augustusburg, with the gates of the Catherine Palace and Pushkin in Russia. This area is meant to be like New York City. I have the Empire State Building. I have Old Penn Station. I have the U.S. Capitol Building, the Library of Congress, the Supreme Court Building. I have the White House over here in the center. I have the National Mall with the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, and the Washington Monument. I built Downton Abbey down here. This cross over here, this is supposed to be like Versailles. And then I have Monticello way over here, and just a few other little projects dotted out in my world. So I've been trying to do everything in one world just so that I can go from place to place and also see my progression as I learn different building techniques and develop different styles for how I like to build buildings. I imagined this to be like the Queen's sitting room. I guess now the King's sitting room. Shows how long ago I started this. I have some gardens out here. And then going down through the hallways, we get into one of the wings of the palace. And these rooms aren't all that interesting. I just did some experimenting with color and haven't put any furniture in. This was a staircase. I imagined something kind of like something you might see in an Italian villa with a lot of marble. It's not like anything in Buckingham Palace as far as I know. I just wanted to fill up this area and have a staircase that led from the ground floor to the Piano Nobile. Nobly? I'm not sure. Pronunciation has never been my strong suit. We have more hallways and doors into different rooms. This is the balcony room. We have the front balcony, where the royal family will come out and wave to crowds of people. Let's set that time back. You can walk down the hallway, or you can walk from room to room with these doors. Now, these ceilings are lower than the stateroom ceilings in the original part of the house because there is another floor above here. Oval study or drawing room. We have a staircase that goes all the way down and all the way up. Here's a room with a vaulted ceiling to the detriment of the floor above, where I don't have any rooms or offices. Other ways of trying to experiment with making chandeliers. This one has candles on top of barrier blocks. I imagine this to be like a diplomatic reception room. Here we have stairs from a small courtyard that's fenced in. I imagined a lot of embassies along that side of the street, which I'll do at some point in the future. Some more rooms, smaller rooms. I imagine things like offices. Then back to the staterooms in the original part of the house. Now I did try to do some of the ground floor, all my own imagination. Here's a kitchen with a large vaulted ceiling that goes all the way down. Big half-moon windows, lots of storage, furnaces, ovens, crafting tables, offices for the head chef and associate chefs, some kind of a common room for staff, and then office space, desks, chairs, cabinets full of paperwork and information. That's how I imagined. It must be very busy down on the ground floor of Buckingham Palace with lots of people rushing around doing their jobs. Think about what the White House must be like. This is the one part of the palace that I haven't finished yet. I just haven't put rooms in over here. I didn't know if I wanted to do something more interesting. This was another kitchen. I imagined something like a family kitchen, something that's a bit smaller, where food can be sent directly above to the royal family apartments. It's very dark. More office space, nice big vaulted ceilings to support the large staterooms above. And yes, the upper floors, most of them, they're just small rooms. Here's a view of the roof. I used copper so that I could see it green over time with the older parts of the house. These are additions that I put up on top. And here's a view of the rear facade. I haven't really gotten to work on the gardens over here yet. It's still all wild, and I might keep it that way for a while. But you can see what the original house was, as I imagined it. This is the ballroom, different color stone, so you can tell that it was an addition. Here we have one of the wings, which is taller than the original part of the house. And then the front wing, which is just as tall as the other wings, but a different color stone. And I'll show you where I imagine to have the monarch's bedroom. I'll go in through the roof access here. So this is just upstairs from one of these sitting rooms on the second floor. And I just imagined a little suite of rooms. Nothing too big or fancy, nothing like Versailles with King Louis's giant bed surrounded by the railing for onlookers. everything else. I just imagine something a bit more cozy. Back down the Lancaster House staircase. Into the central gallery. So that is my version of Buckingham Palace. How I imagined it might look, and then just having a little bit of fun and doing whatever else I wanted to do. It was a project I started a couple of years ago. I've been doing more on it since September, and I decided to make a video of it for today to go along with all of the coverage of the really once in, well, now it's been a couple of generations since the last coronation happened in the United Kingdom. So I hope you enjoyed that, and that's it for now. Thank you.